Hi, this is Zach Woolhouse again. Today we're going to talk a little bit about read pedagogy. The last video that we did talked about preparing our reads, but I didn't really go into too much detail about reads themselves. So to start off, I'd like to talk about the brands of reads that I typically use. Now there are two main brands that you're going to see from beginning level all the way up to professional level. And that's Van Doren. And if you're a 6th grader or still in grade school, then you're probably very familiar with these. And they typically come in the blue box traditional reads, which I have here, or gray box V12s. The brand that I use right now is called Rico, and these are actually getting really popular now. They've been making some great reads, and if you're going to check out these reads, I would suggest the Rico, the Rico Reserves in size either 3+ or 3.5. That's what I use. So for strength, the first thing I'd like to do is just dispel the rumor that a lot of younger players kind of fall victim to, in that the strength directly correlates to your ability as a player. That's simply not true at all. What I always tell my students is you want to find the strength of read that makes you sound the best on your particular instrument. And so I have students that are playing on size 2, and now that's mostly 6th graders, but they sound great on size 2 because their embouchure hasn't developed yet to where they can produce a good sound on a harder read. And then I have some 7th graders who are between 2s, 2.5s, and 3s, and then a lot of my 8th graders by now are playing on size 3 reads. And that's usually strong enough to support the way that they're playing. Typically, read strength will also vary from instrument to instrument. Now, what I mean is not from like saxophone to clarinet, that instrument to instrument, but like bari sax, tenor sax, alto sax, soprano sax, and everyone kind of has their own opinions on this. But bottom line, what I always tell my students is find the read that makes you sound good. That's all that's important. And if anyone tells you, oh, well, you should use size 3.5 because it gives the most resonance in the whatever register, it's like, okay, whatever. If you sound good, you sound good, regardless of whether you're playing on a size 2.5 or a size 4. So just use your ear, sound good, and then use that read strength. Typically, when you're pairing a mouthpiece in a read, the general rule is that a larger tip opening, meaning the distance between the reed and the mouthpiece, the larger that is, the thinner the reed you want to put on, and then and vice versa, a smaller tip opening, you can use a harder reed. So that's how that relationship works. Okay, now let's talk about weather issues, because this is a really big deal for saxophone players, particularly if you're traveling a lot, but also if you are a band parent who's not wanting to spend a lot of money on reeds. So reeds, before they became reeds, were plants, and they used a process called capillary action, where the water is actually being pulled up into the reed. Now, when your reed dries out, the humidity is the same inside the reed, and so that's why typically you'll see different reed cases. Like, there are some really great reed cases out there by both Van Doren and by Rico that are humidity controlled. And the reason you want to control the humidity of your reeds is because anytime the weather changes, the humidity level is going to change most of the time. And so let's say you have a reed like this one, and there's this humidity level that's inside the reed based on the environment that it's been in and that it's been played in. Through osmosis, which is essentially just equalizing pressure on either side of the reed, both on the inside and on the outside. If the water pressure on the inside of the reed is greater than the air around it, then because of that law of equalizing pressure, the water is going to shoot out of the reed to try to equalize the pressure and make it the same as the outside. Now, inversely, if the water pressure on the inside of the reed is less then the air around it, there's going to be water that's going to shoot into the reed. And so naturally, anything that is shooting either in or out of something is not going to be very good for anything. And so a lot of times you'll find that when the weather changes, if you take them outside, or, which inevitably we have to. I mean, we can't just, leave reeds indoors all the time, because, it'd be great if we could just play in the same building our entire careers, but that's, not reasonable. And so it usually takes about 2 to 3 days for a reed to adjust to the humidity level. And then sometimes I've found that my reeds are just absolutely useless after a big weather change, where I'm not, helping to control that effect. There are a lot of storage containers that actually both Van Doren has one. It's called the Van Doren Hydro Case, and then Rico makes a really great reed case that is, and both of those are humidity control. And so if you can check those out, they're a little expensive, but they are really great at keeping reeds really good for a long period of time, despite weather changes. Another thing that you can do, and I've seen a buddy of mine do this, is you take the end of some pantyhose and you put rock salt in it, and then you wrap it off, and so it forms like a little ball of rock salt. And you keep your reeds in a Tupperware container with that rock salt. And the idea of the rock salt is that it's going to absorb any excess moisture, and so the humidity is going to be controlled inside that container. So that's really all I have. This wasn't meant to be some scientific, dissertation on the exact proportions that a reed should be cut, but just to give you guys some additional information to help you take care of your reeds a little bit better, and particularly for younger students who are younger, for their parents who have to inevitably buy reeds for their young students. I know that my parents did that for a long time, and I'm sure that if they had had this information, they would have saved at least a little money, because of just having more knowledge about taking care of reeds. So, like I said in my last video, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them on here. And as I also said, I'm not super stuck in this way. So if there's a way that works better, or if you have some more ideas, feel free to just leave them. Or if you need to clarify any information that I've given, just let me know kindly, and I'll be happy to respond and to make any adjustments. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to listen, and I hope you have a wonderful day.